Well, that was something. Florida State comes out and just gets obliterated by Clemson. Number 2 Clemson, 59-10. Early in the week when we saw the point spread was 17, we thought, well, that's kind of steep at home.
Remind me real quick, I didn't catch the Warchant report. I didn't catch the end of it, but remind me what you picked to happen. I know y'all do predictions at the end. I can't quite remember what you picked.
I've been thinking about this all week, and up until about 10 minutes ago, I was not going to do this, but I'm picking the Noles in the upset.
What?
I'm picking the Noles in the upset. I'm taking Florida State 28-24. I'm taking Florida State. Did we? I don't think we did the Warchant report this week. No, we skipped it this week.
That's my fault. That's my fault.
We're going to get back to it next week, though, so you can tune in. It was a complete abomination in every way possible. Willie Taggart, you got to give him credit for the press conference. He at least said, we've got quitters on this team. Yep. We're going to identify the quitters. It sounded like literally they're going to go back over the film and try to identify who quit and when and take action, and they're not going to play again. It was he's got every right to be mad, but he's got to be mad at himself as well. This was a complete, as bad a loss as the Florida State football program's ever had. 49 points ties the worst in school history, and it also is easily by itself the worst in Doe Campbell history.
Yeah, and on the bright side, better news, Logan Tyler did tie the school record with 12 punts. Yeah. Keyshawn Helton kind of let him down there with that long touchdown at the end, or he would have probably broken it with 13. The Baker's dozen, as I like to call it.
There's always a silver lining.
So he's obviously going to set the record for punts in a season, too. So, Logan, you still got that to shoot for. Look, man, yeah, there's nothing you can point to and say, well, that worked well, that did well, they played well, that segment played well. All of it was just awful. It was an embarrassment. There's no other way to put it. And it's not just the embarrassment of the big score. It's that, you stopped competing, number one, which is embarrassing. You had guys just straight throwing punches. I mean, it's to the point you would think we're like, man, you almost don't deserve to be playing football here anymore. I mean, I don't know if Willie's to that extreme, but it's close. Like you're gonna show fight when you're down by 45 points or 55 points. That's when you're gonna show fight. No, man. There was not a lot to like. I think a lot of it goes back to, he inherited a roster that had a lot of this in them, and I don't know. The question is this coaching staff exacerbating that? Or are they nipping it in the bud? Like, I think we'll find out over these last 4 games.
They're not nipping it in the bud.
They haven't, but, he's never been that mad. I doubt he's ever been that mad after any game he's ever coached. And, he said it multiple times that he had guys that quit, that they're out recruiting guys that are winners. He didn't call these guys losers.
He did. He said if you're throwing punches out of frustration, you're a loser. That's what losers do.
Ira, don't correct me again. I mean, just roll with the flow. I mean, this is ridiculous. We're live right now. But he definitely called a lot of the guys on the team quitters. And Brian Burns echoed that for sure. And I think they thought they were going to hang with this team. I think everybody in that locker room, the coaching staff, Brian Burns thought they were going to hang with this team, and they did not.
Yeah, I mean, my score was only off by about 63 points, but for the most part, I think I was right on through one quarter.
You had it nailed.
I had the recipe down. Actually, at the end of the first quarter, I think most people felt like Florida State was showing they could play. They were playing very well defensively. They were hitting Trevor Lawrence. He did not look very good. He did not look comfortable, which we expected. They did a good job against the running game, which I thought they would. The problem was the offense was a complete no-show, and I think that's the thing we need to be careful of. Everybody's going to focus on the quitting. Everybody's going to focus on the throwing punches because those things are terrible. But long before that ever happened, this offense was as bad as it ever was. I mean, it was terrible. They couldn't do anything. And really, I thought the offensive line wasn't the biggest problem. The skill position players did not show up. They dropped passes. They gave up on routes. DeAndre did not look good. I mean, the offense was by far the worst we've seen in about a month.
Probably worse than the whole year. I mean, they had 65 yards at half. They had more penalty yards than rushing, or they had one more total yard than they did penalty yards. I think it always goes back to the offensive line. I think the offensive line was as bad as we think it was. The skill position didn't help, though. And Francois had 3 drops, 2 bad ones by Nooney and Gavin that derailed drives, and then you have your senior snapping the ball to the sun. And so that derails another drive when you're in their territory. And you can't do that. And it's the old guys that are doing that. And that, I think, is the problem. That's what worries Florida State fans. But maybe that's a glimmer of hope that, in a couple of years they won't be here. So maybe you're recruiting guys that don't do that kind of stuff. But you can't run. Once DeAndre got hit, especially there at the end of the first half, that high-low, the personal foul that they called, he was never the same after that. And, he just can't move. He has the mobility of Winky. And with this offensive line, that's a bad combination. But, yeah, the offense was a disaster. It was as big a mismatch as I think we thought it would be. I think their longest rush was 5 yards.
Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say it was true.
But going forward, I mean, I think the question a lot of people want to know is, I mean, is this team going to completely fall apart or not? We talked to a couple of the players, Brian Burns. We didn't talk to many players, but Brian Burns was one of them, Marvin Wilson, and they said they're ready for next man up. They're ready for guys who want to compete. They noticed that guys were not giving full effort once the game got out of reach. And, so I guess, they still have, again, the toughest part of their schedule. I mean, starting with this game, you go to NC State next week, then they go to Notre Dame. They still have Florida, Boston College, who's been playing well. All the goodwill they built up these last 2 or 3 weeks seem to have evaporated, and if anything, it might be worse than what we thought.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a loss that you expected. Nobody, well, other than you, nobody expected Florida State to win this game, but to look like that, Willie even said it, they took a big step back today. I think he thought they were this was like one of those one step forward, 4 step backs kind of performances where I think a lot of Florida State fans are wondering, can this be turned around? Can this guy do it? I don't necessarily think that's fair, but it's 8 games into his career and he inherited a mess. At the same time, you're 8 games in and you look like 16 penalties. Why in the world is that kid coming off the edge trying to block a kick, a meaningless field goal with 11, 12 minutes to go in the second quarter in a 0-0 game, like it was the fourth quarter in a tie game? It made no sense, and that's where they got to be coached up. Why would he have done that? And I think that you want to look at 2 plays. I think that's bad snap, and then that and I think Asante Samuel is going to be a very good player, and he made some nice plays in that game. But I think that play.
Well, he's not freelancing on his own to go after the block.
There's a safe block that you can call where you don't even go after it, or you just rush up, kind of saunter up. He charged into that kicker. You have to know not to do that, and he has to be coached not to do that. So that was disappointing. Nobody had a good game. Willie Taggart had a terrible game. His coaches did. The players did. I will say, when you look towards the future, I think a guy like 21, not Logan Tyler, although, hey, Logan, again, congrats on the record. The other 21, I think that's a guy you can build around. I think that's the guy that needs to be the leader of this football team, because that dude, even when they were down by 50 points, was busting his ass and tackling they were running the Wildcat, and he was tackling the quarterback 6 yards deep in the backfield, man. He was trying. So build off him. Make him the centerpiece of this thing.
Well, this is the one thing is this is a good opportunity for Willie Taggart to show he's a little bit different than the former coach, because Jimbo Fisher did not make those changes. If guys made mistakes or quit or fought or whatever, you didn't see them go to the bench for a long period of time. I want to see if Willie Taggart does this. There are some guys on this team who, frankly, probably shouldn't play the rest of this year unless they really do a lot in the next couple of weeks to earn their spot back. Some of the players even said that. So I think that's one thing we have to watch. And then also he's got about 5 more games to evaluate this coaching staff, and I think it's clear that this coaching staff is not cutting it done. 4 more games to get to evaluate this coaching staff and decide whether or not he's got guys on the staff that can get it done. Because look, the window for Willie Taggart is going to close. I mean, he's not going to be on the hot seat after 1 year, but a few more losses like this, he doesn't have any more goodwill. So on that, we'll wrap it up, and we'll say sayonara from Doak Campbell Stadium. Check out warchant.com for more coverage from the debacle in Doak.